All right, let's try that again. This is the take two. I'm guessing a bunch of you got confused by that. I got confused myself. And yeah, here we are. So today is April 10th. We've got a ton of stuff to talk about. Let's see. We'll kick it off with Joey is in Germany at the, I believe, what is it, like some German IoT thing. We talked about this last week. So he's out for a little bit. We've got a couple of events going on in the deep in space right now. The Hong Kong Web3 Festival is going on, I think, as we speak, or maybe he's wrapped up. And then Token 2049, I believe, is next week. So lots of stuff going on in the Web3 / deep in world. Lots of cool news coming out. This morning, Wi-Fi Dabba did their town hall. I know a lot of you guys have been following Wi-Fi Dabba stuff. And they announced some pretty exciting stuff. They are close to Mainnet. Let's see what else we got. They got 2 years of runway, which is great. They are going to be on testnet by the end of this month, by the end of April, so in the next 3 weeks. They will be onboarding folks by the end of May, and then Mainnet will be launched on or before July the 1st. So super cool. Keenan, what's going on, dog? I managed to totally blow the link. I started it and then stopped it and thought I could start it back up, but turns out that's not the case. You got to start up an entirely new feed. Let's see. Speaking of Keenan, I got some Helium news next. And all this stuff, I tried to put it in the description this time so that you guys could follow along rather than have a, what's up, JM? You're back from the dead. I heard you disappeared for a little bit. I'm glad you're alive. I know Kev was worried about you. That was a funny thing from my end, although I know you guys were freaking out about that. Let's see. So in Helium world, we talked about it on the last show, but it wasn't, I don't think Helium had made the announcement. And that was IoT Sensecore. So Sensecore deployed a bunch of stuff in a Super 8 hotel in Canada. And I think they were stopping leaks and saving them a bunch of money. So just kind of cool news from the IoT network. I know I hear a lot of times like, isn't IoT dead? It's like, no, it's still going. It's still working. I think one thing we have learned with the Helium side is that for IoT, the best use case will be tracking stuff generally. And that if you're going to have something in one spot and static, there may be other options that are cheaper, easier, whatever. Not always the case, but and especially if you've got a fleet of a bunch of different devices all feeding into one place, you may want to think about kind of how you're going to use the best aspects of Helium, which is you and Twain, right? Yeah, we were worried about you. Someone is going to fly out and knock on your door. I thought the whole thing was funny. Okay. So on the Helium side, that was the IoT news. On the mobile side, there are 2 HIPs that are ending their votes today, the hex boosting by deployment. So allowing service providers to figure out, like, do they want Wi-Fi, CBRS, whatever. And then 113, which I think was written by Rohrman and is just enough reward to stay online, is how I interpreted those 2 things. I haven't followed those super closely. I do know that Helium made an announcement. Those votes are closing today. Let's see, it's 9 o'clock my time. I think it said it's 2:45 my time as well. They're closing. So the next, a couple hours, 5 hours, something like that. HIP 118 verification mapping for mobile is up for discussion. I don't think it's up for vote yet. So that's what's going on in that world. And then not the last thing, mobile opened up. I got a message on my app that they opened up in-app shop, and you could buy online, or you could buy hotspots, Wi-Fi, was it indoor or outdoor? I don't know if they're selling swag as well on the app, but that you could buy that stuff. I looked at it. I think it was like, if you continued at current mobile earnings, which you won't because the network is going to grow. And maybe I'm missing this. In fact, 5:45 Eastern, thanks Keenan, is when the votes close. Maybe I'm missing this, but and this, I guess, depends on whether or not these different HIPs pass. But if we continue at current earnings, it would take something like 150 days to earn back the amount of mobile you'd use to buy an outdoor. Oh, that's right, you can buy phones as well. And so I looked at that and I was like, 150 days, 6 months, a lot can happen in crypto in 6 months. I think for me, I'm better off just holding on to the mobile I've got and not buying another outdoor and deploying it on the house, which Keenan, we've got to figure out what we're going to do with the CBRS that's on my house as well, because I haven't touched that thing in a while. I think it's been dead for a while. I feel kind of bad about it, but I also feel like we probably got the most that we're going to get out of it already. So, and if you want to send that somewhere else, let me know, because I'm not doing a very good job of being a host on that one. So let's see. I did notice that, and I'm curious if anyone else saw this, my indoor Wi-Fi at the shop at Paleo Treats, I don't look at those things every day. I used to, or I certainly did when I first got them, but I looked at it, and we've got a phone in the shop that's on a Helium plan. And the phone's been working, and it's only on Wi-Fi or LTE. It's only on the Helium Wi-Fi. Like, I haven't given it access to other Wi-Fis at the shop. So it's been working the whole time. So I didn't notice that the indoor Wi-Fi hotspot has had no heartbeat for the last 9 days. And so hasn't been earning anything. So I was like, that's interesting. Like I would, maybe I need to talk to Nova about this, but I'd like to get a notification that my little Wi-Fi thing is not earning mobile points. So I power cycled it. It didn't fix it within the hour, but when I woke up this morning, it was back online. So I have no idea what happened. I know that power cycling fixing it. That was it. And then I've spent some time kind of mucking about in the last couple weeks with trying to generate and doing this kind of the hard way, but generate on Python a map of my local neighborhood and then all the res 11 hexes in it so that I could figure out routes to drive to hit the 40 hexes. It ends up that I'm really not going to change my habits that much anyway. It was fun to do it for about a week, just like driving and making sure that the shop phone, which basically never leaves the shop, got 40 hexes. But then I was like, I got other stuff to do, and I'm not sure it's worth it to go out and drive that thing around for 40 hexes, which is, I don't know, 12 minutes. I don't know if my day is that valuable, but it sure seemed like it. So kind of interesting thing. I didn't end up getting it to work. It was just too much gosh darn work. Yes, it's a little bit too complicated. So I get the map. I get like an ugly set of hexes, half over at half not. It wasn't very clear where they were. I know a while ago when Dirk and I were doing pollen, this will be over a year ago, he had set up a super cool thing where you took a Raspberry Pi and it generated a map, used GPS to show where you were, and then as you went through each hex, it would highlight it so you know which hexes you'd gone through. That was kind of fun to do, but again, that's like some nerdy stuff, and 40 hexes are not that much. If you just drive around for a couple miles, you're going to be fine. The one thing I did notice on that, and this is, I think, the last thing I've got on the Helium side, was that I am no longer alone in Helium mobile mapping in my local area, and that many of the hexes that I would think I would earn off of are being mapped by other folks. So pretty interesting. I think it's a good sign, even though it means that it's a little bit harder to get to that 40. It's a good sign that we're seeing those things get mapped by other folks as well. So the main drag, which is Adams Avenue in San Diego, I will never earn, not never, but I'm not earning any hexes on that because it's got so much traffic, and some other asshole with Helium is driving that thing in the hour before I'm driving it. So interesting stuff. Okay. Wingbits they're talking about allowing coverage heat map to be visible on the dashboard. They asked for volunteers. I volunteered, didn't hear back from them. I'm sure they think they got like 30 others. So, all right. No, I did hear back from them. They just said something nice. And had I seen that someone was impersonating me on their server, I hadn't been on their server in a little bit. But super cool to see those guys kind of carrying on and doing good stuff with, just development and progress. I think that's what we want to see in all of these projects. Demo made a bunch of announcements. They've got a really nice announcement schedule. They come out on Fridays with like, hey, this is what happened in the last week. So they got their macrons and AutoPies back in stock, and then they launched their Demo developer platform. So just, again, good news to see that these different deepen projects are making progress and crushing. And then there was a Spheron article, which to my kind of embarrassment, I haven't heard of Spheron, but they talked about a bunch of different deepen projects. So they talked about Nadix, which is the one where you put the app on your phone, mount the phone in your car, and it doesn't transmit video data or images like HiveMapper does, but it'll look at the scene that the camera is seeing and say, okay, there's a stop sign, there's a pothole, there's a traffic light, there's an intersection, there's a street sign, there's construction, whatever, and transmits just that data back. So a pretty clever way to use AI cameras and make sure you're not burning up a ton of bandwidth. Ycrypt, which we had interviewed on Deepen State a couple months ago. They're out of Nigeria and they're doing Wi-Fi sharing. So kind of neat stuff there. ATOR Relay, obviously we work with those guys. Those guys are a client of Gold Hawks. And it's just neat to see all of these different projects get mentioned. The ATOR Relay, those guys came out with an update for all of the relays that were picked up at Denver. Of course, I picked up mine at Denver and got it up and running. And then because it was on the test, mine was on the test net early. It would go down, it would go up. I'd work with those guys. They were hustlers and super good about getting on and getting that thing fixed. And then they transitioned my relay to their more robust and stable mainnet. And that thing has been, I think I had to do a USB update, which was pretty easy. The only sticky wicket on that was you couldn't format the USB on a Mac. You had to do it on a Windows. Nigeria's blowing up. And so I ended up doing it on the little box behind me. I've got a Windows box just for that stuff, for when the requirement is that you don't use the easiest system ever and use a difficult pain in the ass system like Windows. But it was pretty easy to, load the files on the USB, and then all you did was stick the USB in the relay. I think power cycle it after 30 seconds or something. Super, super simple to do. So those guys are being good about that. Spheron also talked about the Demo Macaron, which we've talked about, that the little device. I think it's $100. You plug it in your car. That's the upgraded version of the AutoPi. And then they mentioned WeatherXM's WS2000, which is their Helium weather station. I think that's the only one they have in stock right now for US residents. They're coming out with the upgraded Wi-Fi one. And then I think Nikos had talked about the new piece of hardware that's coming out third quarter or something of this year, something like that. So it's just super cool to see that stuff. I know WeatherXM is getting pretty darn close to Mainnet, although when that is, there is no public date on that. I know that's a source of frustration for many, but there it is. I think that the really good news that I see with WeatherXM is like they're planning for, at least a year, 2 years into the future. So the kind of bullshit FUD that I see, like, these guys are never going to launch. Like, no, they're going to launch. They're just going to do it in a way that makes it so there's far less bugs when they launch than other deepen projects. And that's an interesting thing here, is that different projects are going to do these things in different ways. Some projects are just going to YOLO and fire right into it and fix bugs on the fly, fix most of them on the fly. And then other projects are going to say, hey, no, we want to launch something that's pretty good. So, and I think you can argue the difference between those two things endlessly. The last deepen company that got mentioned in the Spheron article was GeoDNet. GeoDNet has blocked me on Twitter, so I can't really see what's going on with them. And I don't think I can't get their feed into my DPU5 announcements on the Crystal King server. So we'll see what they do. I think those guys are doing a good work. Interesting to see what's going on. And again, neat to see them mentioned in kind of a lineup of deepen projects. So that was cool. The Rabbit devices, this has nothing to do with deepen yet, although I've heard rumors that they're going to do a token. They're just rumors. I would say that's like hand wavy bullshit. Do not put any weight on that, but it would be super cool if they did a token. Those guys are going to ship their first batches pretty soon, and we should see those by the end of April. Why the block? Let's see, we had a discussion or a disagreement about how the contract should work. And yeah, I would say that a little bit of that on their side, a little bit of that spilled over in the public. Wasn't the most pleasant thing I've ever seen or done. And they decided that it was better off. They're better off blocking us from seeing what they're doing. So whatever. I wish those guys the best. And they blocked J2. I think a couple of us were asking questions. They didn't like the questions, and they decided that blocking us was a better option than not. So whatevs. I would like to see all deepen projects do well. So I'd like to see those guys do well too. No grudges held here. Let's see. The other thing I did that was kind of cool was I was messing around with a Frotobot. You guys saw that. I think I'd picked it up last time. It's not in my room right now, so I can't pick it up again. And I'm pretty sure those guys are going to go the deepen route. So I went up because I was curious about it. I went up and did a meetup at UCSD, which is University of California, San Diego. It's the local one of the local state universities here, and met up with their robotics team. It was a meetup, so it was like a totally public thing. I signed up for it, and they made this big deal out of, you do win some and lose some. And I'm not sure if that's Trackback Neil, Trackback Rob, Trackback someone else, but if it's Neil, super good to see. I would love to see it back in the GK server. Been far too long, my friend. So I went up to this thing, and in the meetup description, it said, hey, don't come unless you've already come to a beginner's thing. And, we'll be spending all of our time on the track. We have limited time on the track, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, I'll just go and see what happens. I could be a fly in the wall and get out of their way. And it turns out that they're only crowded when the students have a deadline to meet, like a race or a competition, and there was no deadline to meet. So can I give them a cam via eCam? I could Travis, I think you're talking about the Frodobots. Yeah, I could, but the wireless transmission ability I have for them is like 300 feet. So it's like a little Wi-Fi setup. I forget what it's called. Like it's like it's not a Hollywood. It's like a Holly something, some setup that I've got where you can do remote camera stuff. So I could do it like back and forth in the street, but I can't take the feed from the, I don't think I could. I guess I could bring in like a window here, but I'd have to be controlling the robot and doing this show. And I'm not sure I've got the bandwidth personally, not the bandwidth internet-wise, but the bandwidth personally to be driving the robots and doing that stuff. I think what will happen, in fact, I'm sure what will happen in the next, the time period is uncertain, next couple weeks, next month or so, is to let someone else drive it. And so, oh, Neil, super cool. Yeah, Rob crashed one the other day. He started up a YouTube channel. I'm not sure if that channel is public because I think that video is unlisted. But it's like Frodobots crash or watch me crash a Frodobot or something. So what I'll do on this show is make the Frodobot available for someone to drive. I'm not sure if I can pick it, but we'll see if we can get Rob to drive it around while I'm doing it. And then I'll bring that feed in here as another camera feed and you guys can see what's going on. So super. Yeah, it'd be fun to drive that thing live and get a little, I don't know, like tour of the neighborhood or something while we do it. So the UCSD thing was super cool because I went up there. No students were there. It was just I would have called him the professor, but he made it very clear that he was a lecturer. And I guess in university land, there's a real distinction between those two. Professors are whatever. They probably get more money. They have more resources, more whatever respect, whatever the fuck it is. And lecturers are folks who are like getting onto the professor track at some point. This dude was super well established. He'd been doing robotics forever. He was working on medical robots and he did lectures at San Diego kind of in his spare time out of a joy for the hobby. So we sat and talked for a while, walked through a couple of things of the Frodobot. We took it apart. You know, he's a robotics guy. He's been doing it for 20 some years. And so he instantly saw like, oh, this is a problem. That's a problem. He's like, this is kind of cool how they did that. That's, you know, you can change this. The Frodobots go 3 kilometers an hour top speed with the motors they have in them. And I think with the help of the AF, I found some motors that go 16 kilometers an hour. So 5 times as fast. So I'm considering, I'll switch out the motors and have that thing go way faster, but we'll see if they have some kind of prevention for that. In fact, I should just ask Michael at Frodobots if I put in different motors, are they going to limit the speed that I've got? Cause they do have these little, I think they're called like magnet discs on the drive shaft. And that's how they tell how fast it's going, I think. And so if this thing starts spinning faster, even though it's the same input voltage, God, I'm way out of my depth there, voltage wise to the motor, they may notice it and be like, hey, you actually shouldn't be going over 3 km per h. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. The UCSD Triton thing. So they've got this autonomous racing team. So it's different than what I wanted to do, which was, you know, just make like a better, more badass robot and put a sensor package on there. Rob and I talked about putting a cool little like mapping package on top of the Frodobot I have. So that would be fun to say like, okay, we're going to sample air quality and temperature and whatever, I guess not wind speed because you're moving it around, but you could put a helium mapper on that thing. There's all kinds of kind of fun sensor packages you could do that are, because it has a big enough battery for 5 hours of driving and no sensor pack is going to take that much. Even if you put a Raspberry Pi on it, you probably don't significantly impact the range and you end up with a new little sensor pack on that, but it's some, I don't think, serious geek shit. So may not get done, but what they do is autonomous racing. So they'll take a little robot and they'll drive it around a track a couple times manually. It picks up the data set from driving around this basically peanut shaped track. So a little chicane on one side and a straightaway on the other. So half peanut, or peanut shell. And then they say, okay, you can drive yourself now. And it takes all the data that learned and it drives itself around the track, apparently a lot faster. If you go to the link that's in the description and you click on their main page and you just watch their very first video, like their intro video, I forget what YouTube calls it, but it's like channel video, something like that. But you'll see it. It's the first thing you see. You'll see these 2 robots racing autonomously and one of them knocks the other off the track and they're going wicked fast. So I went to another robot meetup on Monday with Lee. And we sit down, it's a bunch of nerds. They're all talking about their autonomous robots. And one of the takeaways from there was that once you get these things autonomous, they just process things way faster than humans can. And so they can go way faster. So it's not because they have, whatever, faster reflexes, whatever it is. And because the cars are so small, they can just whip around these tracks and do whatever, like 7-second laps, where you or I might do like a 17-second lap because that's all we can handle. And that may not be true for whatever, some mega gamer. Maybe they get it down to 9 seconds, but at some point the robots are just much damn faster than us. So that was super cool to see. And then the last thing I've got today, and I'm going to end up probably cutting this off at 9:45 or earlier, so we got about another 20 minutes, is I saw this cool YouTube video, and I put the link down in the soil temp measuring device. And that's just like a fun build. I don't have a use for it. It just seemed like a neat thing to do because it involved stuff I haven't done before. One of them was in Greyhack Guy it's a capacitor, which I don't totally understand. I know I could look it up on Wikipedia and know what it is in whatever, a minute. I'm assuming that it takes in a bunch of power and holds on to it until you tell it to release it. So it's like a mini battery, because I've heard guys talking about supercapacitors replacing batteries. But it was just a thing where it's like, oh, I haven't done any of that before. I haven't taken a raw sensor and wired it up and figured out what the voltage drop is across it, and how you'd then, which this seems the simple part, is you figure out the math of the voltage that's going across it, and that gives you the temperature, which is what the sensors are designed for. It's something I'm like making up. But it's just like a fun thing. And then you take a little PVC pipe and you put these different temperature sensors at different lengths on the pipe, and you drill a hole in the ground and you slide the pipe down the hole, and then at different depths up to however long you make the PVC pipe and the wiring, you can measure the ground temperature. And so 6 feet down, I think in general, the temperature doesn't change too much, but at 1 foot, 2 feet, it just changes less the deeper you go. It just seemed like a neat little kind of science project. And so I put the parts list that I'm building. I think there's only 2 things on there as the very bottom link. That's the Google Docs. And that seems just like a fun thing to do. So I'll fill that parts list out, order the parts, and then buy it and build a couple of them. I thought it might be kind of neat to put it out at a local paragliding site and just see what the ground temp is, and then see how that changes and if that affects conditions in a way that would be useful to me. Because the way that, God, we've talked about this a million times, the way that paragliding works is the ground heats up the air above it. The air then gets warm enough to be lighter than everything around it. It expands, it releases, it goes up. That's this bubble or a thermal if there's enough heat hitting the ground. It might be kind of cool to see at what the ground temperature is doing, and if that corresponds to a cool thermal trigger place. So if you see it heating up at this point, you're like, oh, it's going to be really flyable. There's other, I'm sure, far better ways to check that, but this just seemed like a neat thing to do. And I think the temp sensors were $2.30 each, and if you bought 10 of them, they're $1.70. So you could get 10 of them for $17 plus some PVC and some wire and these capacitors. I'm guessing you can build one of these things for, I don't know, less than like $25-30 per. And I'm also guessing if you bought that same thing on the interwebs, it'd be $150-200. So just kind of a neat thing to do in a checkout. And then of course there you could put a little. The plan is you have this PVC that gets hammered in the ground, and on top of it there's going to be a little box with a solar panel on top of it. So, and then of course a transmitter in there that is probably going to be a Helium LoRaWAN, and push that out over Helium to the internet, so you can smash these things in the ground anywhere. And have a reading. So, but again, fun project, kind of not much to do other than that it will be a Helium sensor, not much to do with blockchain. So that is what I've got going on. Yeah, I think that's all of my news. I'm sure there's more news out there. Is there anything else that you guys want to hit? I got a couple other things to knock out. I haven't done much on the scale project down at PT. In fact, I think I'm just going to go down today, grab all the ingredients. We'll bring them back up to the regular shop and jump in. Oh, hang on. Let's see if Travis is coming in. Stand by. Hang on, Trav. Let me get you in here. It is definitely not Joey. And let me edit the text. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. What should I put you as? Travis at...
Travis at, I don't know, Texas?
Undisclosed. There we go.
Yeah, okay, that works. How's it going, man? No, I just wanted to kind of jump in. Thanks for, thanks for the link.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of throw in a mention about the sensors that you were talking about.
Okay.
And I think what a huge aspect of those really plays out to be is you can ship sensors this big, and people can source PVC locally, and for the full sensor. You don't have to ship a 4 foot long sensor. wherever it's going.
Yeah.
And that really, because shipping sensors is what kills you. I mean, that's what really hurts you when you're
Oh, shipping big ones. Oh, so Travis,
yeah.
this actually brings in something else. Is we had maybe we talked about this on the AF. Was that I think there's going to be like little packages, upgrade packages for Frodobots. So one of the things is, the thing comes there, the both of the cameras are on, they're recording all the video that they take. And so me just as a generally like private people, like, or private, not, I'm not that private, but like I printed up this little 3D print thing that sits over my Mac camera. I think there's like a hood that you would print up that you put over the Frotobot when it's not in use. And there's probably also some other stuff that you could print up and put in where it's like, hey, this is a sensor package. This is the upgrade package to make it go faster. This is X, Y, and Z. So like we're starting to see this extra stuff coming up where, whether we're building like a soil temp sensor package and it's just like, oh, I'll buy, 300 of those sensors because now they're super cheap and I can repackage them and make a buck or two a thing and ship out a really small box. You buy PVC locally and aluminum tubing, the rest of it. That's kind of a cool idea.
I mean, is it a full open platform? Yeah, if I want to do my IO, if I want to change sensors around, that's something that they make available
On
for the
Frotobots?
Protobot.
I
Yeah.
don't think so, no. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Cloudy
I,
Connects.
I
What's your
really
thoughts on
haven't looked
Planet?
into them that much,
Yeah.
to be straight with you. But
I think no, I think they're pretty close. I'll hit this one super quick. What's your thoughts on Planet Watch? I haven't seen stuff on Planet Watch in a long time. I hope they do well, but the last I saw, they're pretty darn mismanaged, and that thing went off the rails. So, but I think you're bringing it up because of the air quality piece, which is the connect back, right? So, but yeah, that's a super cool idea, Travis, because I think maybe there's got to be, because I've seen all this stuff on Hack. What is it, Hackaday? Is that there's like this
yeah.
option where someone like you or me, we build a little kit, and the kit has 5 sensors and wire and the capacitors. And I think the thing that we could add is like really clear instructions to say, like, here's how you do it so that you can be a normal person. And as long as you have a soldering iron, you could build this like pretty high tech thing.
Yeah, I mean, they sound like fun. I
Yeah.
told you I was out at the first competition, here in Texas this
Yep.
past week,
Yep.
and oh man, those things are crazy fast.
Yeah.
Um,
And what does
um,
FIRST stand for? It's obviously not obviously. It's FIRST. Let's see if I can.
and funnily enough, I actually participated in the first year of, it was called US First back then, but
Okay.
this is kind of the brainchild of Dean Kamen, who is an awesome engineer. He has his own island up in New Hampshire, I believe,
Okay.
and just neat cat. He started this back in the mid '90s, and I mean, now they have cheering squads, flag teams. I mean, each team can have up to 40 members in it,
Is
and
this
some
you guys
school.
telling me about these people are putting these like saw blades on these robots and they're fighting each other to death or something? Or is that someone else?
I think that was probably someone else. This is
Okay.
non-combative,
Okay.
and you also have a standardized radio unit, and you cannot mess with other people's RF.
Ah.
That's highly discouraged, I believe.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it was a fascinating display of. I mean, just the teammanship. I mean, where you have 4 teams at a school, and each team has 40 people. I
Yeah.
mean, we didn't have that back in the day. Shoot, man.
No. This actually brings up an interesting piece is when I talked to the UCSD guys, he's like, hey, we're looking for sponsorships. And for like a NASCAR sponsorship, you're looking at millions of dollars. For these little like robot teams, you're looking at, I think, 60 grand a year is what they need to raise to send a bunch of kids all to all these competitions and do all this stuff. It's
Wow.
like, that's not that much. I think with a group of folks, they're like, yeah, we'd do that, and figure out like what's the benefit? How do we make it so that maybe they, I don't know, like open out their build plans, like this is their fastest robot, and this is what you get as a sponsor, beyond just like the Gristle King logo on a robot or whatever.
Yeah, or if you run like a local meetup,
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a great way to promote that and to get. Yeah, I mean, because it's Geek City out there, man. It's crazy in a
oh
good way, you know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, just the kids who, this is a big deal in high school now.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's not the robotics. It's first. It's
yeah.
it's pretty cool. So I think it's $6,000 per team, just for registration for a school. So
Okay. Yeah,
um,
I'll dig around. I mean, if this crypto market goes bananas and I've got the same kind of knucklehead money that I had last time, that'd be super fun to be like, yeah, I'll sponsor your team for a year. Like, go do
yeah.
something rad, and then come on the show and we'll share like whatever you learn. We'll share some kind of cool plans for whatever it is. And it's not like folks who do robots can't do anything else. So you could bring them any other project and say, hey, this is something cool we want to do together.
And I think there's a lot that you could share from your end of things that they may not, spend all day on Discord, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, as a high school student, these kids are busy as hell.
Yeah.
And I think it's a two-way street there. And I'd love to get behind that. I'd love to be more supportive of these teams. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
It'll be
Cool.
fun to crush.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you been doing anything with any other deepen projects? I know it's not your primary thing. Anything
I'm
new?
learning.
Good.
I'm learning about this whole Web3 thing. I hear it's
Okay.
going to be big. So, I've been trying to study up on that a little bit. And I guess recently I've kind of been getting back involved in the IoT
That's right.
over on the Helium network.
Yeah.
And
Did you get
so
voted into the IoT working group? I didn't see
I
it.
did. I
Okay,
did.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And
That's right. Because
thanks
you
to
ran on a
everyone
platform
who,
of like free peanut butter lunches or something.
off-campus lunches and
Off-campus.
peanut butter surprises. Yes.
There you go. Nice.
Um,
Nice.
I don't know. It kind of shows my age there a little bit, but
Yeah.
I thought it was important.
And you had your first meeting the other day where you were on it, right?
We did,
Yeah.
and I feel it went quite well.
Cool.
I think we have a good crew together, and I think we're going to be able to move some things through. I'm excited. So
Is there anything in particular that you're looking to do with IoT working group on the Helium side? I mean, I know that's where you kind of started with
yeah,
this
that's
stuff.
kind of why I wanted to get involved.
Yeah.
Yes, there are some. I guess I'd say primarily, and I don't want this to be a platform or anything, but I want to be able to onboard hotspots remotely without using BLE locally.
Oh, cool. So I'd buy a hotspot and send it to you or to your whatever your
No,
mom or your
you
sister.
never have to touch it. You could drop ship to someone,
Right.
like in Africa.
Yep.
You never have to touch it, but it onboards to your wallet
Got it.
without you having to BLE set it up.
Yep. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that unlocks a ton of stuff. And I think so. Wi-Fi Dabba is basically done that, and they've taken a ton of the steps out of there. Would be super
Okay.
cool to see Helium do the same thing, right? Because
Well, you know what would be neat is if you could make like a tunnel, like a BLE tunnel, like a lot of these OTA things are doing nowadays, that you've talked about on the show, to make it where I could remotely do that via BLE if they don't want to make it pull BLE completely out of the situation.
right.
Just I don't know, fun
Interesting,
stuff.
because you need something at the far end to transmit the Bluetooth, right?
You would need boots on the ground at some point, yes,
Yeah.
but someone has to plug the gateway in anyway. So I don't know. It's a good conversation. Please join that conversation over on the the Helium Discord, IoT channels, and let us know what you think.
Love
But
it.
yeah.
What else is going on, dude?
What else? I've been messing around with BLE a whole lot this year,
Really?
and radio stuff. I mean,
Very fancy.
it's fun. It's fun. I've been also working a lot with these with seed and with the seed indicators, the little 4-inch
Yep.
touch
Yeah, those things
screens.
look super cool.
They are
Dude,
pretty damn cool, man. Yeah.
is there a Bluetooth mapping unit that I can get and kind of drive around and then see like what the Bluetooth signals are like as I drive around, or is that out of?
Yeah, I mean, all these WizBlock kits, like the Helium Dev Kit or whatnot. Those use the Nordic
The
microcontrollers.
whatever. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can shoot you over some firmware to use on that. But
That might be
I mean,
fun.
there's some out there. But yeah,
I-
load that up, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the air.
Yeah. There is. I think that might be where we see. I don't know if Helium will do it, but just like wireless signal mapping in general, not just LTE, not just Wi-Fi, but LTE, Bluetooth, everything that's going on, and then thinking about how do you visualize that as like layers on a map where as you drive through, here's where it's strong, here's for a specific device, here's where maybe there's tons and tons of, I mean, at the Paleo Treat shop, when I look at Wi-Fi, there's probably 30 Wi-Fis that I'm picking up 30 SSIDs that I'm picking up. And it makes me
Run
wonder, like,
Dragon OS, man. Like put a
is that the way
Dragon
to do it?
OS install on something up at the shop is what
Yeah.
I would do. And there's a lot of utilities right there that are quite nice. Yeah.
All right. We'll map it out.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, dude. Well, I'm going to jump off and knock out this next call, but thanks a ton for
Cool.
coming on. And
Adios, bud. Thanks for having me, man.
good to see
dude.
you. Heck yeah.
Adios.
See you guys later. We're out.